Today's webinar, we're going to be covering off the Omada Cloud Essentials, which we'll get into a little bit more. Obviously, it's the new free cloud platform available on the Omada product set, and then a little about the new gateways that are available with the VDSL compatibility. So as always, we'll start with a little introduction, a bit more about Purdicom and then on to TP-Link as well. So Purdicom, we were founded in 2005. So just coming up to our 20th anniversary. We are a value-added distributor, working very much on the value-add side. Yeah, we do have a huge number of vendors that we supply. I won't go into them too much, obviously, with this being a TP-Link webinar, but please feel free to ask any questions later on to account managers if any of these other vendors are of interest. We do primarily work in the Wi-Fi switching, point-to-point and security domain. Moving on to TP-Link, they were first established in 1996. The first expansion into the international market was in 2005, and then 5 years later, they became the world's #1 in the global WLAN market. So quite a meteoric rise for them there. Since then, they've continued to expand, going into smart home, service providers, and surveillance, but the big one and the one that we are really backing on is the enterprise, where they launched a Omada range in 2018, and it's just continued to grow since. So moving on to the first bit here, Cloud Essentials. So as I sort of mentioned, this is the fully free cloud controller for the Omada product set. You get full cloud management of all of your Omada products, fully free of charge, dropping the previous requirements for the license fees or to have a supported controller hosted in the cloud. With it being Essentials, obviously, there are limited functionality compared to the full license set, but that can be easily upgraded just by purchasing a subscription at any point for your devices, or by switching to a on-site controller model, although that one's a little less seamless with having to rebuild the configuration that way. So some of the main feature sets that are different between the Essentials and the full cloud. With Essentials, you don't get the PPSK option and the 8021X authentication, and there are some reduced functionality on the captive web portal compared to the full version, but you still get form auth vouchers and simple passwords there. And then on the VPN side as well, there is WireGuard VPN only as the option with the Essentials. Obviously, at any point, if you need anything further than those, you can just upgrade with the license key and get going straight away. But onto what the Essentials does have. Obviously, it is fully cloud managed. There's no on-site hardware needed other than the equipment. You get that full management both from the web browser and from the Omada app. You still get the zero-touch provisioning from being able to onboard all of the devices and configure them beforehand. And there is unlimited scalability as well. There is no limit to the number of devices you can have with Cloud Essentials. So this is continuing to grow the flexibility for the Omada controller options. As I've sort of touched on already there, you can have either a hardware or a software controller on site. So this is either running it in a virtual machine or buying a physical controller unit. So you do have that flexibility for the on-site deployment. And then you now also have two options for the cloud-based control, whether the Essentials is going to be suitable for the use cases that you have, or whether you need to upgrade and go for the full cloud-based controller to get that extra functionality. With any option that you choose, controller-wise, you can still manage every Omada product. So there is no loss in support there. So onto a couple of the use cases for the Cloud Essentials controller. We see it as a very good offering for surveillance networks. So where we are able to deploy a full secure we're able to deploy a full surveillance network, so you can have all of your access point switches and gateways in there. The system does have intelligent monitoring to spot IP cameras and MVRs, and then you can have monitoring on those ports to ensure that those IP cameras and MVRs are staying live. And with the PoE auto recovery, what we can do is monitor the camera. If for whatever reason the feed from the camera drops, the port can automatically cycle the power, rebooting the camera and bringing it back. You do also have cable testing available with the Omada switches. So where you have an IP camera connected in there, if for whatever reason you lose functionality, you can check without having to send an engineer to site whether the cable still has all pins connected, just as a pure functionality test on that cable. Some other features that are available in Cloud Essentials that are great for this surveillance network. The extend mode is one that I would really highlight. You're able with that to extend PoE distance up to 250 meters for cameras, meaning that you don't need to deploy as many switches. You don't need to do fiber backhaul and then convert it to copper later down the line. You can just get those runs directly to the cameras outside of your standard 100 meters. You have one-click Wi-Fi setup as well. So for those smaller deployments where it's going to be a real sort of simple deployment, you can get the one-click Wi-Fi, run through a very quick wizard, get your WLAN set up as well as your guest Wi-Fi. You have port isolation to keep your security on your edge as well, where your cameras are, making sure nobody's able to just easily get into either to get into your cameras or to get into your network from a camera location. Quick deployment of the WireGuard VPN, and then a very fast portal setup as well in the bottom there. So on to the next use case, hospitality. So as we were touching on just now, you do still have the full captive portal setup in Essentials. We can quite easily deploy a Wi-Fi network for all of the staff at the hospitality location, and then spin up a very quick one for your guests. You have full firewall functionality, same as always. You can have that security of keeping your guest traffic and your staff traffic completely separate in these locations. We have very good deployment for multi-site management. So with the Cloud Essentials, you can have all of your sites in one location, delegating access out to local resources as required, and keeping that central management for all of the sites. As was sort of touched on before as well, unlimited scale. So it doesn't matter how many sites you add in there, you can just keep scaling the deployment up and up. And if for whatever reason, as you're expanding out with your hospitality department, you get outside of the remit of Essentials, you can very easily then upgrade to the full cloud and get that additional functionality. So the Cloud Essentials offers great flexibility for hostels or hotels, where we can very quickly deploy a network, obviously managed fully free of charge with the Essentials deployment, and you're still able to have either a voucher-based access so that you can still charge for it if you wanted to. You can have receptionists giving out a voucher, charging for that access at the counter. You can have form authentication where you're collecting feedback or information on guests, and you can now as of Q4, point towards an external captive web portal as well with the Cloud Essentials. So if you have a third-party captive portal that you very often use, you can get that functionality fully free of charge. As I touched on, we do have that multi-site management as well, where we can delegate access out. We can make it view only or fully managed, and then have the MSP there with the overriding control. With the guest networks, you still get full customization of the bandwidth. You get full control of how much bandwidth the guests are able to use. Quick and easy VLAN deployments with Cloud Essentials, either via the app or via the web browser. So you can very easily deploy a network fully from your phone. And then we do have the network topology view as well to show where everything is, how it's connected, and what that functionality is looking like. The last of the use cases to run through is Cloud Essentials for office space. It's going to be it's a very good option for some of the smaller office environments. You can very quickly spin up a network here, get everything going, keep your security as before, and still be able to provide guest access for people who are visiting these office spaces. With the WireGuard VPN, you can do site-to-site VPN between gateways, meaning that you can very easily have that multi-site deployment, and obviously all managed from one single location. And then the zero-touch provisioning is very useful here as well, where we can get everything ready to go. Just send an installer to site, put the APs up, and everything will be configured. Running back through the sort of features that we've highlighted here, and adding in a couple of others. We've got the auto loopback detection as well. So this is going to be great in small businesses where users have a habit of just plugging any cable into any port they can find. The loopback detection is going to notify you of this and prevent the loop from ever occurring. Obviously, if you are using all of the Omada APs, switches, and gateways, you can very easily spin up new VLANs across the entire network. You can just configure it via the app, select which devices you want that VLAN on, and that will be deployed. You do still have all of your standard fast roaming features on Essentials, so we can make sure that we've got seamless connectivity for all users, no matter the size of the deployment. You still have the flexibility of mesh if you were to use it. Obviously, we'd recommend that you use it as little as possible, but there are always use cases where mesh is required, and so you do have that full support. And it is an auto mesh feature that we have on Essentials. So as soon as you power up a TP-Link device, it will be trying to find a device to mesh to. There is no real configuration needed on your side there. We have the PoE auto recovery as I touched on earlier, where it's checking that devices are still live. If they're not, it will reboot them. Cable testing, remote management for on-site cameras and MVR that is coming early next year. That's where the Vigi devices are going to be able to be managed via the Omada platform as well. And then, IP camera recognition and monitoring. Again, that's early next year that's going to be coming live. So moving on to the gateways, we have the new VDSL range that has been released on Omada. The first of these to highlight is the DR3650V. So this one has built-in Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi 6 standard, has VDSL supporting up to 350 meg. You have up to 3 WAN connections that you can use on this. So you can have your DSL line in there, you can have FXS on there, you can have a copper connection into the WAN ports, and all of these will then be load balanced or have auto failover between them as well. And obviously, as we're able to be managed Uh, the V-4G. So this is going to be very much the same kind of as I've just touched on there, but this one for that extra flexibility. So the 4G can be used to deploy this either in a remote location or as another option for a 20 V-4G. A larger model, this one is a rack mount. It has SFP connections, cell and 4G. So there are lots of options there. And you can have up to 4 WAN. What we recommend with the 4G ones is obviously if they're going into a rack, that you would have an external antenna somewhere else and run a cable connection from the 4G points. If you're going to put this in a metal box, you're not necessarily going to have great 4G backup using the built-in antenna connections. What we do see with these is that they are going to be great options for growing with a business. So where you might start off and you only have a DSL line in, you can use that as your main WAN connection. You can still have that 4G failover if required. And then as you're scaling up and you're starting to get fiber running to your location, you can keep the DSL line as a backup and move over to having the main WAN coming through your gigabit port, increase your throughput without having to change all of your hardware all at once. Obviously, with VDSL being brought in to the Omada range, extra functionality needs to be added on the configuration side. So we do have the sort of standard DSL configuration options that do come in here. We can change the modulation type, the annex type, enable bit swap. And yeah, just a little highlight here of what that will look like within Omada. What this does bring in is the ease of having a single vendor approach, even on the very smaller, from the very smallest of deployments all the way up. So where on a lot of smaller sites, you may have a Draytech router, a Netgear or a Ubiquiti switch, and then Ubiquiti APs with the IP phones connected in, you can now have the entire network running through an Omada kit. We have the DSL gateway, the Omada PoE switches, and Omada APs. So this just brings the management of even the very smallest of offices, it really simplifies it, brings it all into one single unified platform. And best of all of these devices can now be managed free of charge in the cloud as well. Moving on with the DSL, we see it as very useful in the small business deployments as well as retail. So where we have the flexibility here, we can have DSL lines into small retail stores. You can still have your 4G backup on there. If you do need to expand and get a standard RJ45 WAN connection, you can do so. And this is fully scalable all the way up to fiber to the premises as well, where we can have a full gigabit router. The router that's being highlighted in the FT section is the ER. It works as a gateway/router. It has a built-in PoE switch with 110 watts of PoE budgets, and it can also work as an on-site controller. And obviously, it can also be managed from the cloud platform as well. So yeah, little roundup from the DSL routers and the essentials. It's going to bring easy multi-customer and multi-site management. All of your network can be managed in one single unified platform. We are able to have stable wired connections with the a lot of functionality that's being brought in with these devices to really help you get your network going. And then one final one is a little highlight of a brand new device. So we have the ER703WP 4G outdoor AP. This is a multi-platform device. It is a gateway. It has built-in Wi-Fi and 4G connectivity. So this one is very versatile. It can be put in a very remote location using the 4G for backhaul, but it can also have a Cat6 connection in there. So you can make sure for areas that really need that Wi-Fi connection, no matter what. If you have a flaky wired connection, you've always got the 4G as a backup option. With it being a gateway, it has the same functionality as the other gateways. You can have load balancing between those connections, or you can have an auto failover from one to the other. It does include 2 PoE out ports on it as well. So you can have things such as camera or any backhaul equipment that you might need connected into that. And a nano SIM card slot as well for the SIM connection. And that is all of the products for today. If there are any questions, please feel free to send them over and I will do my best to answer them for you. And I do see that we've had one question come through. There is no, is asking, is there additional fee for the WireGuard VPN? There is no additional fee from TP-Link. The WireGuard VPN functionality is there, fully free of charge in Cloud Essentials. You just need to obviously configure it to work with your own WireGuard VPN provider.
Hello, Ashley.
Looks like we have another question as well.
Hello, Ashley. Can you hear me?
So I've got another one through about the PoE recovery. With the PoE recovery, it's going to be checking for connection on the ports more than anything that data is being passed through. I believe that will work on access points as well as with cameras, but it is primarily aimed at cameras. A lot of the time with network equipment such as APs, we don't necessarily want them to just be auto rebooting by themselves, but you should still be able to use that functionality. Yeah. And one more question come through. Is there any customer data that could be extracted from the captive portal? If you use form authentication, you can still collect all of the same information as you normally would be able to. Yeah, all of the data is still collected and put against the users as they're connecting. External AP with 4G, can you install that as a regular AP outside but use the 4G? So you could use the 4G as your main WAN connection, if that answers the. Hopefully it does. So yeah, you can use that as your backhaul. Depending on signal strengths and whatever else. Any further questions at all? Okay, I don't see any more questions coming through. If there are any further questions, then feel free to reach out to us. You can email in to helpme@purdy.com for technical questions or contact an account manager if there's anything outside of that. But what I will do is end this session now. So thank you all for attending. And I hope you all have a great day.